one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you all for being with us here today. I appreciate that. Woo. Commissioner Lake, what's happening in Hill County Precinct 4 this morning?
No, we're trying to mess with some culverts today. Seems like that's all we do is buy culverts and put them in. So we do a good job of that, so.
Okay,
And we spend our budget quite easily with that.
we've noticed.
We've got a big one to put in, so.
How big of a culvert you got to put in?
I think it's 84 to 50.
Oh, wow. That is a big culvert. All right, best of luck with that.
About $7,000.
Just for the culvert.
A little less than 7, but I don't remember exactly.
Gotcha. Commissioner, what's happening in Precinct 3?
On and off this morning, I was 34 and 36 north. It got kind of bad where it meets up with Mark's precinct there.
Oh, yeah. That's terrible.
Anyway, that's what's going on today, probably tomorrow.
Okay.
That's probably the only good road he has in his.
Oh, my goodness. All right. I'll tell you what. All right. Commissioner Crumpton, what's going on Hill County Precinct 2?
31 and trying to cover up some weak spots and then move back to Three Valley. We've got some recycled asphalt we're covering up over there.
Okay. That just turned into rub board.
Yeah, it's getting very bad. And anyway, we're going back to cover it back up. And, you know, when we grade and blade the roads, we've had a lot of people scooping up the little windrows on the side. And
I think we should remind people that's theft.
yeah, well, we caught one, got the sheriff department and
Okay.
went and investigated. The guy called me and was very apologetic, and he's gonna make a small donation to precinct 2 to replace the rock back on the road, so.
I'm glad you
File
brought-
charges with him.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because we've had a couple of instances of that lately. People appropriating taxpayer gravel for their own purposes, and that's just not right. So I appreciate Sheriff's
It's
Office.
bad when they take it, you can't see where it went to.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Commissioner, what's happening in Precinct 1?
Flying catch up from weather, can't really glide when it's frozen, so we're out. Put some gravel down, we got some bad spots over off of Live Oak Drive. We're gonna take care of that this morning off Cedar Creek Park Road.
Okay.
And then we're starting making our rounds on the 1400s and kind of playing catch up on that, and we're gonna hit kind of go through the numbers, 1400s, 1300s, and get it all covered up if we can.
Okay, good to know. Sheriff, what's going on in your part of the world today?
We'll post on Facebook about the grant that too, that is that, so hopefully they see that. We got some repairs going on in the building, inside and out, jail and office, just minor repairs. We are, implemented a promotional policy, and we have the deadline coming up, I believe, in next week, March 4th. See if we can promote from within for a couple of starting positions that we had on. We are still working on a bunch of policies for a lot of reasons,
Yeah,
District County in our office.
and we appreciate that.
Other than that,
Oh, good deal. All right, something new. Justice of Peace Hammond, you got anything going this week?
the usual.
Just the usual.
Yes, sir.
I got you. Jesse Ince, our county surveyor, is with us this morning. You're going to hang around for the subdivision rule. All right, we'll probably push that to the end. So anybody that doesn't want to be bored to tears about what we're going to talk about has the option to leave. And they can stick around for a very exciting discussion regarding rules and regulations. Ms. Cook, what's happening in Indigent Health?
We've got a meeting today with a couple of different boards, and then I've got sort of a meeting, a couple of clients, and then business as usual.
All right, sounds good. Mr. Cantrell, IT report?
I see everything's pretty good, Judge. Everything seems to be moving along pretty steady, and I mean, no major projects this week. We got a couple of big irons in the fire, with regards to replacing all MPTs for the sheriff's office, but this week, it's pretty much just business as usual for us.
I love it. Chris, emergency management?
Just working on the grant, and finish the antenna replacement tower on Friday. Bunch of people all over the weekend, but catch up on stuff.
Yeah, I can't talk about that publicly. That's still my favorite call of the weekend, though. If anybody wants to hear that story later, call. Yeah. Good deal. All right. Ms. Cole, anything in Victims Coordinator's office? Okay, good deal, good deal. Mr. Goins, what's happening with ESD number one?
One day at a time. We got nice weather, we got matches in our pockets, so we go deeper. And we got wind gusts at 18 miles an hour.
I hope that people will exercise some discretion. We've got a lot of dead material in the drought. I know that we just went through a cold snap with some precipitation. It wasn't enough to cover things up. The green grass isn't growing fast enough yet. We don't have a burn ban on, but please use some discretion when you light things on fire. That would be very helpful to the rest of us. Anything from the county attorney's office? Yeah, I see. Anything from the county clerk's office?
Busy.
All right. My office, we've been swamped with policy. You're going to talk subdivision rules. We've been talking about this for years. It's on the agenda. And we are going to start moving forward on getting some things changed. A lot of grant follow-up. It's that time of year where we're applying for CDBG grants through the TDA. We've got grants in other offices. So you'll be hearing a lot about grants. The grants aren't as numerous as they used to be. There's no magical pot of money. Just small things here and there. We've been successful over the years to collecting them, but I will say things have slowed down the last couple of years. And I think that's really a function of federal spending. They prioritize different things that we're not able to do, I should say, actually. Otherwise, you might have noticed that there's a budget report out already. So guess what time is coming up? Everybody's favorite time, budget time. Yay. We'll be talking with everybody about that as we move forward. Otherwise, I won't drag on. We'll go to open forum. At this time, if you're here to speak to the court on something that's not on the agenda, or maybe if it is on the agenda, you want to talk to us, this would be a time to speak with us. Ms. Paula, has anybody signed up to speak online before 8 a.m. this morning? Nope. Okay, that's going to make a couple hundred in a row. Nobody has. Anybody here for open forum? I know I covered about 3/4 of the room before I even got to this point. So, all right. Well, nothing doing. Well, we can come back to that if we have to. So at this time, let's move on to our consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of our minutes, our invoices, our payroll, which were both sent to us yesterday by the clerk's office in an electronic format, and monthly report on revenue and disbursement, and any elected training official training certificates as required. We have a motion, a second, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there anything to be taken on for separate discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. All right. And there goes those. That moves a step. Oh, I knew you were going to have something for me over there. I was certain of it. She gives us the non-serious copies to review and scratch over. And so then he gives us these afterwards, which frankly probably saves a lot of paper on her part. I've seen us. All right. While we're moving along then, is the court orders. Number one is discussion of employee wage status changes this day. Our first group is those group that have moved on to, separated from Hill County, but moved on to what they think are greener pastures, at least we hope for them it is. First of that is Mickey Winkle, the sheriff's office. His last day is coming up. He's resigned. Valencia Brooks, our jail sergeant's moved on to greener pastures. A effective of 2/7 was their resignation. Carrie Rose was a dispatcher trainee. She's moved on. Caitlin Young was, that's the jailer trainee that's no longer with us and probably on the not rehire list. Then on better news, here's the new hires. Is it Slovacek? Am I saying that right? Okay. I thought it was the same, but I want to make sure. Thanks. Summer Slovacek is a dispatcher trainee. Welcome aboard, Ms. Slovacek. Well, glad to have you. Dave Sinclair. I think we've all met Dave at one time or another, whether you're meaning to or not over the years. Retired from Hillsborough, and now he's coming on board to Hill County. Welcome aboard, Sergeant Sinclair. I think you'll be great for us. We've all met Mr. Alberto Sanchez. He's new with courthouse security. So if you see his face around, say hello. We have Caden Cordell is a new hire in the jail, and then wage changes for this date. We have Jason Sparks for the sheriff's office is getting bumped up into that absent jail sergeant position. That's the reason we had to have that meeting last week to change the career advancement policy so you could do that. Congratulations, Mr. Smart. Mrs. Miller is going to be doing booking pay again, and so additional booking officers. Same thing with Vanessa Ventura, and those are the wage and status changes for this date. We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? Questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, any abstentions, motion shall carry. We're going to move along to discuss and or approve to apply for crime victims grant. Ms. Cole, you have the floor.
This year.
Only reason I'm asking you to come over is so the folks at home can hear. Apparently, when we're in the corners, they don't hear very well in this room. Thank you.
So, the grant opened up early this year. And so I had to request the application by February 14th.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you.
So. Come and ask y'all if I can apply for this grant, which I appreciate you always allowing me to do so. I give you a few stats and updates of like who I've talked with over the years of like how many victims I've served and things like that. But I want to give you a different picture of what I've been dealing with for the last several months and what I've learned from the AG's office and what's been going on in that direction. The grant did open up early this year, which I was very surprised because the last 2 times it was extremely late. And then we didn't know until like right at the very end of grant season if we were going to be open or not. Fortunately, I've always gotten the grant, but that's not always going to be the case. They made that very clear. This year we did have a conference, which they hadn't had a conference since 2000. From that position in 2008. So I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was not on that list to be able to attend that last conference before COVID hit. So I was unaware. But when I went this year, I learned a lot of how hard it is to do what I do, what other VACs do, and turns out I've been doing it right. Other VACs
That's
have been
good to
doing it
hear.
right, but it's just extremely hard, and it's extremely hard for our victims, and it's extremely hard for them to see with getting any type of help. So I made a little list I'd like to go through. So February 14th, I had to request the application, the grant opened. I registered for it, even though that wasn't due until the 28th. Now, my application is due on March 14th. So I have a resolution of governing body, which the commissioners will sign off on, allowing you to be the authorizing official and allowing me to apply for the grant. And then after my application is finished, then Judge Lewis will sign off on that. I will be able to apply for the grant. So that little system I need to go through and have y'all approve. But I wanted to talk about the conference, so I was able to attend this year. And it kind of left me taken aback. I was not necessarily happy when I left because I wanted to be excited, but it made me realize how hard it is for coordinators to get information, which I am fortunate. I am in a county where I can collaborate with our agencies. I'm not left in the dark by prosecutors. I'm not left in the dark by CPS. I get to work well with everybody in the county. Because I've met other victim assistant coordinators who work in the offices of their DAs, and they are constantly left in the dark. They can't get a hold of police reports and things of that nature. There was almost like one class that we went to, it was kind of a complaint session. And I was like, how do you not have this available to you? And how are we not working together? I just was done with it. So I left concerned. They make the crime victims compensation available to our victims of crime, but it is literally a last resort. And what I mean by that is if you're applying for crime victims compensation, if you have insurance, it's gotta go through your insurance first, or whoever hurt you, it's gotta go through their insurance, so it's a last resort. Well, a lot of the time, the people that come to us, it is their last resort. Maybe they've had a falling out with law enforcement and they've never called the police. or they're just not police officers. So they don't have a report number or things of that nature. But by the time they make it to the office with us, we have to talk them into, did you call 911? Did you do these things? How can I get you into a shelter? You need to leave him. You need to take your children. You need to file for divorce, things of that nature. So I was just a little upset by the time I left of like, okay, I'm already doing the things of walking these men and women and children through the process. But now I need to hold their hand tight. Which with I feel like the servant heart that I have, I'd already been doing, but I need to do more. So this year I've been with the county for 10 years. In this position, I've been for 7. And one thing that I just want to tell all of you is how grateful I am to be here. Now, I know coming in and saying, can I have money, please? And can you allow me to apply for this grant? Of course, you're gonna let me apply for the grant, why not? I mean, the worst they can say is no. But I don't know that I've ever come up here and said, thank you for letting me be here. Thank you, David Holmes, for hiring me. Thank you, Mark Pratt, for believing in me, that this is my calling to help these people. Because I've seen the outcomes of how that works. But going to this conference, it made me realize there are counties that don't have a me, not that I'm putting myself up there, but they are hitting roadblocks from their own agencies, from their own commissioners, from their own people. And I am so grateful that our county does not do that. So I want to thank you very much for allowing me that. I know that I come in and I let you know how many people I serve and that we have trial after trial every month. The DA's office is constantly going. The county Judge Crane's office is, we're doing domestic violence cases all the time, protective orders are constant. But that's because we have a true need for this position. And it cannot be just given, the law says that it can just be given to someone within the office. And that, you know, it doesn't, it's kind of vague. But it really needs to be detailed as in, these are the things you need to do for people, you need to be protecting. And so that I've been thinking about what I wanted to say to y'all for like, I don't know, 3 months. Because every 2 years I have to apply for this grant, and for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months I was sick. Because I want to say, God, I hope that they give us this money. It's only $49,500. It did not go up from last year. That covers a portion of my salary and 2 conferences. So I wanted to give y'all that information because not only do I serve victims, I go to trainings, I learn, I ask questions, I'm constantly asking questions of law enforcement, CPS, CASA, anybody who will answer a question for me, because I want to know the full circle of how things work. I'm not just a pamphlet giver. You know, I'm constantly writing letters to the parole board to keep people in. I'm not just gonna do what's statutorily obligated of this position, because I don't think that serves the citizens. So that is what I'm serious.
Thank you.
And that's what's going on now.
Well, I appreciate what you do for us. I don't think the rest of the world really understands. They hear crime victims coordinator. They don't get the depth and the depravity of some of the individuals that you've got to deal with their victims. But you point on something that I've noticed here too, and I hear it in my conferences. I've heard the commissioners come back say the same, I'm sure with Sheriff. We have a culture here in Hill County, one of helping one another. We're small, but we can do so much more when we work together. But yeah, I can't imagine being in one of those counties where your prosecutor wouldn't even give you the information you need. That would be devastating to me. That being said, we highly support you. We hope you get the grant, but if you don't, we're still going to pay for you because you're kind of like family here. So we got that covered. You know, every year she applies for the grant. Obviously the grant is on the state fiscal year, which ends on August the end of August, began September 1. Ours is a month late. So you always notice there's a little line, like what is that oddball line down there? That's us budgeting for that month in case for some reason that she did not get that. We are required by law to have it. Ms. Cole's completely right. They could give it to a secretary in the office like some counties. That's not the intent of the legislation, and it sure as heck is not doing any good for the people of Hill County when they do that. So thank you for all you do. Bringing the question forward of this though, and that is to allow Ms. Katie Cole as the crime victim coordinator to apply for the grant and to approve the resolution associated with. I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to apply for a crime victims grant and approve resolution associated with said grant. Is there any further discussion? Snide comments, anything? Nothing? Okay, good deal. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Cole. Appreciate it. Yeah, let's go ahead and sign it now because it's probably easier to catch me here. That's right, not that one.
Not that. I have one for you.
This one only has a single place to sign.
Yeah, initial for the bottom grant, that victim coordinator grant, and then the commission, one of the commissioners will sign.
Okay, we'll go through that. Good deal. All right, number 3, discuss and/or action to authorize in budget expenditure over 5,000 for Hill County Emergency Management. So this is prior administration cleanup again. We're doing, you know, that we have a maintenance fee that we collect for radio operations. The prior administration lost 2 Motorola radios from the sheriff's office. We have looked high, low. We can't find them. If they ever get turned on, we can locate them, but they literally have not been turned on because if they turn on, they'll show up on our system. And we need to add an additional one. So additional radio purchase will need to be made out of the sheriff's office budget after this, though. There's no negative impacts on our operations and there's no negative impact on the financials. While it wasn't directly budgeted for, we do have sufficient funds in the radio general line item to cover it. And so the request is Commissioners Court approve and authorize the auditor to issue purchase order to Command Communications in the amount of $5,419.85. And that is going to be for 3 of the Motorola APX 6000 AN radios.
Make a motion.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further announcements? It seems like this 5,000 policy has only caught us. It's wild, wild. Okay, all right, which case motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, any abstention, motion carried. Can you get me the order on this?
Yes.
A couple things. Okay, I'm going to skip number 4 and we're going to jump to 5, which is discuss and approve budget amendments. Everybody was handed some budget amendments. The auditor has prepared these for us. Let's go over them. You know, we've had several times we've talked in the past about last year or since January 1st anyway, of things that we've had to do to move money around. And a lot of it's in the jail. Again, not fault of the current administration. It's just a matter of playing cleanup from what happened before. So our first budget amendment in this line is for the sheriff's office. And what you're seeing is we're going to take money out of jail wages, jail social security, jail retirement, jail life. We're going to take money out of contingency, non-departmental. That's $248,104. These are previously approved items that we've done in this court. Nothing new, but that exhausts all contingency money for the county. We have nothing left to give. So after this, there's no more extra money for anybody, anything. Again, all of this has been pre-approved by this court. This is just the budget to clean it up. So what we're going to do is add out of those funds to SO wages, because remember we moved some personnel from one budget to the other, Social Security, law enforcement retirement life, contract services, software and maintenance, capital outlay, and jail radio. So all of that covers the things that we have previously approved in court on the sheriff's office, and that tidies those up. Now, the second amendment is going to be contingency, is going to be IT. Again, we're subtracting money out of non-departmental contingency and capital outlay, software maintenance. These are both for things that we've previously approved in the court, one of which is the MTTs. The computers in the sheriff's office, which we weren't planning on replacing until next budget year. The state of Texas has come back. They're CJIS. You know how important that is. If we're not CJIS certified, we lose access to things that we have to have, state systems. Unfortunately, the old Panasonic Toughbooks, they cannot be made to work with Microsoft 11, and we're stuck at 10. We got to be on 11 to be CJIS compliant. So there's just no way around this. We'll try to maximize any return we can get on those Toughbooks, but I'm going to tell you, it's a computer riding around in a patrol car for many years. They're not exactly going to have the most value in the world. Probably be more trouble in their work to get rid of. And last but not least is sheriff reallocation of funds. And that's, we're going to add, we're going to subtract money from the Capital East and the ACO Capital East, and we're going to put that money into sheriff law enforcement repairs. Again, all these are previously approved items to my knowledge, but this is the one big cleanup budget amendment to get this done. Questions, gentlemen? Miss Susan, anything for us? Okay. Yes, sir. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion regarding these budget amendments? Hearing none, I will call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, any abstentions, motion shall carry. I'm going to go ahead and sign this order and start passing it around. There's actually 3 separate orders here, one for each budget amendment we just discussed. We'll get you gentlemen's John Hancock's on that. We're going to move along to item number 6, discuss and approve first quarter budget report. In your packets, you will find the first quarter budget report, Hill County, ending 12/31/24. It's a 2025 budget with the actual beginning balances and our 3-month comparison to prior year's revenues, expenditures, and of course our 3 months expenditures ending December 20. All right, so if you look at page 2 here, we're looking at our actual beginning balance of the general fund was $9,882,781. And our projected ending balance for this year is $9,347,056 in the general fund. We can look across all other funds and you will see all of our major funds that we list in our recapitulation sheet are here. And then at the very bottom is our total of where we're starting and where we're ending at. That's on the 3-month. On page number 3, you have the fiscal year report through September 30th of 25 for the first quarter of this fiscal year. You can see what our revenues look like, our current year revenues year to date, and our revenues, prior revenues year to date. We're a little ahead of revenues prior years. We brought in $5,533,685 in this period. Last year, same time, we only brought in $5,111,200. So we're slightly ahead on our revenues, which is a good thing. That's for the general fund. Now, other places, that's not the case. Road and Bridge, we're ahead considerably in General Road and Bridge, but you have to remember we made an adjustment to General Road and Bridge in the last budget year to play for some things that we've been paying for. Otherwise, we've made an adjustment. Some money comes out of a 0.5% comes out of the general fund to pay for it. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. But then you look at Road and Bridge 1, you're about $3,500 ahead. Road and Bridge 2, you're about $4,000 or $3,000 ahead of where you were last year. So everybody's slightly up with the exception of Road and Bridge 4. And I can't explain that. You've brought in 162,000 revenue year to date, and last year 270,000. Is that because we had FEMA money come in or something? Oh, that's what it was. Okay, that makes sense. You look at these things sometimes and go, how can that be? There had to be something we forgot about. So anyway, all across the board, we look pretty good revenue collection wise. Law library funds down about $196. That's just a function of how many cases are filed. And its jury fund is down about $50,000 as well in that time period. Moving to the next, you can see a expense revenue summary across all lines. Right now, we're shooting for a percent of a budget. Quarter means 25%. So we should be around a quarter. Total revenues, we've picked up a little more than a quarter. We've picked up 26.73% of expected revenues. County judge, general government, that's county judge, non-departmental information technology, clerks, the auditor, the treasurer, the assessor collector, the courthouse elections administration. Our expenditures are actually under. We're at 23.10. If you look at the justice system, it is going to be at 23.02. So it's under expenditures like usual. That's great. Public safety, that's courthouse security, sheriff, health and safety, animal control, the stray school resource officer, 911 dispatch, emergency management. We're doing well there. And again, this reflects the previous administration because it is as of the December 31st of this year. So that's a rundown of what you've got on your quarterly budget report, your first quarter budget report. Ms. Swilling, thank you for presenting this and getting it to us. I would ask that the court move to observe and record. Motion and second to observe and record the first quarter budget report for FY25. Any questions about that report? Hearing none, I will call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, any dissension, motion carries. Number 7, we put this on here. It's to discuss or take action on application for indigent defense FY 25 formula grant. We already did that. So we don't need to take action on that. So no action on 7. Number 8, discuss and approve publishing a request for sealed bids for the old Blum Yard at 115 Avenue A, Blum, Texas.
Yeah, I like it. As you recall, we published that and the bids that we got were below the then current appraiser.
Mhm.
I went back out, I got another appraisal that was more in line with the market
Okay.
and need to republish that and I think the last time we talked about that, the advice was to publish the number. And I didn't want to do that last time. But there was a reason.
As a minimum bid.
Huh?
It's minimum
As
bid.
a minimum bid. But that'll be a sealed bid. And hopefully we can get her unloaded this time.
If anybody wants an old rail yard in Blum, holler. We got a deal for you. So, all right. Well, is that a motion, sir?
Yes, I'll make a motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve publishing for request for sealed bids for the old Blum County Yard located at 115 Avenue A, Blum, Texas. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. That takes us to number 9, which is discussion to approve a school zone on Hill County Road 1240. So we'd have to put up a traffic control device, so we got to hold a public hearing on it, obviously. Where do you want to put this at?
Well, the city has already undertaken that since the portion of the road that's within the city limits is that part of the school zone. So they've already got a traffic study done that was completed Friday.
Okay.
But since we're, the part of that road is ours from the end of the school district down to 1248.
Okay.
We may want to include that part of, maybe not all of, but part of our road in the school zone.
Okay.
Because that's like when we get that done, we've got an interlocal agreement in place with the city. We've done the first part of that road work. And then we're going to come back this summer when school's out and we're going to asphalt probably the whole road. So when we do that, that's going to be a drag strip.
I got you.
And
Yeah.
if we don't have that up by next school year, it'll be a real problem. So I make a motion that we approve the school zone. I can't imagine it was never a school zone in the first place, but it wasn't.
There's a couple of things I think we'll have to do to put up these traffic control devices to be in compliance with the local government code and the transportation code. The first order of business is this conversation now. The second thing is going to be posting notice of a public hearing, which anytime we put a traffic control device up, a stop sign, a yield sign, that's a traffic control device. We have to have a public hearing. We have to publish notice of it, which is easy. We're in favor of doing these things. It just gives the world at large notice of what we're doing. We would want to publish at both ends of where the school zone is going to start and it's going to stop. So the usual plastics, stick with the plasticized paper. What do you call that?
Notice.
The notice on it, laminated. Thank you. Yeah, they couldn't come up with the word laminated today. Wow.
I think the city is done.
For their part, we have to do it for ours as well. So for us, we would need to go out and publish that notice at both ends of where that zone was going to be. And we'd want to put it on our record when we go to have the public hearing. I would think is the best practice. The beginning point and stopping point, either in GPS coordinates or number of feet from, or
Probably GPS coordinates would be more accurate.
yes, sir, I think so. But yeah, I would make a motion that we hold a public hearing on a traffic control device to designate a school zone on Hill County Road 1240. Thank you. Sorry. My arms got too short to read a couple of years ago. I got to rely on these things now. Yes, sir.
So. Got a question for myself, really.
Okay.
Because I don't know if school zone has a definition to it, which is mean speed limit is 20 miles an hour, 20 hours of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Because that needs to be part of our notice.
True.
Correct.
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
So when you say school zone, is that what you're talking about? There's a lower speed during
Yes.
those hours?
Yes,
Certain hours of the day?
And one of the reasons for this and the reason this came up with the city. And I've got calls, repeated calls during school for, and there's one individual that thinks that his personal drag strips, if it's not posted. And he refuses to slow down, even when kids are running crosswalk. I mean, this guy comes blowing down there 60 miles an hour, and it's my right, and I'm gonna keep doing it. Well,
I think we can handle that with we get some signs posted up the right way. We can deal with that.
I've never noticed, they're not even speeding, speed limit.
no,
Mm-mm. So
if it's not posted, it's 60 miles an hour.
Mhm.
So we definitely need to post. The question is, we're talking about now 1240 from where the city maintenance ends back up to 1248, right?
Yes,
Do you need a speed
Yes.
limit on the rest of 1240?
yes,
You just want to wrap all that up at once? Hold a public hearing on setting speed limits on FM 1240, Hill County Road 1240, whereby we have the section from the end of city maintenance. And again, GPS coordinates are better than just saying that, to this section as a proposed speed limit of 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, and just make that 24/7. And then from that point back around, another speed limit, because you've got a lot of traffic on that road and a lot of people live off that road. And I didn't realize there was no signs at all on it.
and indignant. Completely indignant.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah, but sheriff, something else to do.
Yeah.
And
So, yeah, 35 or 40, certainly no more than 40.
I would
I like 35.
I like
You're
35.
coming up to the school zone.
Yeah, slow it down some. And the other thing is, if we get a copy of that study that the city of Whitney did, I'd love to see it because it might be useful for us to enter that in the record during public hearing, or at least when we go to take action at a later date.
Okay.
So, when would you like to set your public hearing, sir? You got to set it out long enough to get the notice up and done. And then it's got to be 2 weeks published in the paper once or twice, 2 successive weeks. So if we shoot for a public hearing, forgive me, folks, I'm not playing Tetris. I'm over here looking for a calendar date. That's perfect. The 8th. Yeah, there you go. I like what you think. So I'm going to amend my motion to be a motion to hold a public hearing, the first meeting in April, to discuss and or approve a speed limit considered a school zone, Hill County Road 1240, that will cover the length from the end of current city maintenance to the intersection of 1240 and 1248 with a proposed speed limit of 35 miles an hour. Okay.
And if we want any portion, I think adding the 35 mile an hour speed limit will get us. We could just let this, get us to the city limit and let the city
I like that.
do their thing on the school zone.
Me too.
So we don't have an incremental piece of road that's hauled over. And
Yeah,
just make it clean.
I think that's a good idea, Commissioner. All right, that is the motion. Motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, ladies and gents, that brings us back to ye old number 4, which is discuss and approve the Hill County subdivision rules and regulations. We've been kicking this around since the last time we did it, 2019. And I've had a lot of people with input. This document still needs work. It is not a finished document yet, but we're getting closer. So today we need to have some conversations about what's in front of us. A lot of time has gone into this, but we have to take action at some point. This document will do a couple of things in front of you. It will change us from operating under subchapter A to under subchapter C. Why is that, Justin? Because the Texas State Water Development Board, it requires for any entity looking for a grant that the county operate under subchapter C. Okay, fair enough. What are the big differences between subchapter A and subchapter C? I'm not going to sit here and read you the code because it put me to sleep multiple times, me reading it. However, the major difference is under A, there's a series of exemptions, exemptions for this, exemptions for that, exemptions for it. All of those exemptions are gone under C. Everybody files a plat. If you flip from your first page of this document, and you guys didn't print yours out? Okay, cool. No big deal. All right. So the first page of the document, you have a table of contents, and we go through, and section 1 is our introduction. These are the whereas, all the findings of the court. Why are we doing this? What is our legal footing to do this? And what rules are we adopting? That's the whereas. And you'll see some formatting issues on here because I have not changed that yet. We'll get to it. It takes you on through page 4. There's whereas, and then it talks about the Commissioners Court has considered the potential burden to private property rights to property owners and taxpayers of these rules and regulations, has further considered the potential burden to property owners and taxpayers of substandard development, poor quality roads and infrastructure development, flooding and development that is detrimental to the public health and safety that might reasonably be expected to occur in the absence of regulations. That's the best that I could sum up why we're doing this. You know, I'm a small regulations guy, always have been. But at the same time, we're having some very unscrupulous things happen in this county. They've happened in the past, and we've been pretty good at stopping it. Unfortunately, even with the high price of land now, you've got folks coming in with money and trying to make a quick buck, and it's hurting the individuals that buy it. So, you know, we're going to move on to number 1. Into that page talks about our development support team. And what is that? That's a group of folks that currently look at these, and we are trying to get a just way of interpreting these rules and speaking with the developers. We are not here to hinder development. We are here to ensure development is safe. It is something that's desired for our county, and it's not something that is substandard or detriment to the public health and safety. Section 2, like any good attorney, you define everything. Words have meanings. It's easier if you tell everybody what the meanings of those words are, though. That jumps us to section 3. And that's a preliminary plat. And here's going to be one big change. And actually, I've already made a change to it since I printed it off last night. So you two guys didn't kill as many trees as I did. And that's section 3.0, preliminary plats and plans required. Preliminary plats shall be required for all subdivisions or re-subdivisions, except those submitted as minor plats, if development contains a lot of less than 10 acres or development involves interior roads or drainage improvements associated with the development. If anybody's looking on theirs at home, they won't hear that one part about 10 acres because that's the part that got put in this morning. I forgot it. What we're saying is this. For years, we interpreted the rules to say simply 10 acres or less, and we had to step in. That's not the interpretation I take away from this document, the local government code. My interpretation is 10 acres or less, and we could go down to 5 acres or less if we wanted to. I don't think we should do that. But anything that has a dedication of a public road, street, alley, park, anything like that, dedicated public use, we also have a right, and I think frankly under the code, a duty to regulate those as well. I'm not trying to take in more work because this all falls in my office, but it needs to be done because there are some unscrupulous things happening out in the county. Folks putting in roads that they don't comply with our regulations. They don't have to under our current interpretations. And those are going to be nightmares for us in the future, frankly. They're going to be real problems. Pause for caffeine and continue. All right, so that's preliminary plat section 3, and it goes through all the development requirements, all the things that are required. We prohibit flag lots. We require drainage. We require drawings requirements. We require utility services. We talk about groundwater. They changed the rules January 1st to 24 that if you want to use groundwater, you now must have a licensed engineer. And so in this language, further plat application for subdivision of tract of land for which a source of water supply intended for that subdivision is groundwater, it's a well, under the land must have attached to it a statement prepared by an engineer licensed to practice in this state or a geoscientist licensed to practice in this state and certifies that adequate groundwater is available for subdivision per Texas Local Government Code 232.0032. They used to be permissive. It is now required under the law. So that is shown in there. Section 4 is our final plat. Those are for the big ones. We go from, or roads that have subdivisions that have roads and drainage. We go preliminary plat, final plats, 2-step process. We have pretty much gotten rid of the bonding for construction purposes. We now are saying escrow accounts. I think that we're going to have a problem getting rid of bonds completely because some folks will do that. They won't have the money up front, but that only comes into if they're trying to sell lots before the construction is finished anyway. If they just go ahead and finish construction up front, they don't have to worry about that. Number 5 is section 5 is replats and amendments. That's not something we addressed very much in the last document. It takes it on more here. Section 6 is minor plats. look, we're not trying to catch everybody up in all the rules, and Hill County is one of the few, but we make exceptions for minor plats. That's where, let's say we got a piece of that land, you're going to make a lot under 10 acres, and you are keeping at least 25% of the original property. You can divide that lot up to 3 times, I believe, under these rules. And you don't, as long as there's no roads or drainage being proposed in there, you go to this shorter minor plat process, which is less expensive and easier. This is really allocated for those times when mom and dad, grandpa and grandpa die. The kids want to keep the farm, but they don't want the house, so they want to sell off a couple acres around the house. You know, that has to be planned for in our rules, because it happens. You're moving on to number 7, manufactured home rental community. That's been our rules for years. There are some updates to the law as to what the current code says. Section 8, recreational vehicle park, tiny home community, temporary rental community, or short-term rental community. We're seeing more and more of these in the county, people that want to put these tiny homes in. The biggest problem, well, 2 biggest problems I see with a lot of these is A, there's no way on God's green earth they can put 50 tiny homes on an acre of land and comply with any septic regulations in the state of Texas. Probably can't do it with 10, not possible. The other thing is, if I go out here and I have 100 acres and I say, you know what, I'm going to build an 800 home tiny home community on your gravel road, what happens? Yeah, that road goes to pot overnight. It's done. 800 cars coming back and forth. And guess who gets to pick up the cost? Mr. and Miss Taxpayer. So that's not how that's going to be. You will see in here, there are requirements under over certain population, certain number of lots. You're going to have a study of the road and what improvements need to be made to the road. So if you want to bring your subdivision out to an old fill road that was black dirt, God bless you. I think that's great, but you're going to pay to upgrade it, not the rest of the taxpayers in Hill County. That's where I'm at. So this tiny home, recreational vehicle, tiny home community, short-term rental, this is new to us. And I want you guys to review that very carefully and what we're proposing. We propose that we're going to regulate a lot of these through Chapter 366 of the Texas Health and Safety Code. For those of you not familiar with Chapter 366 at home, that is what gives us our authority to regulate on-site septic facilities in Hill County, Texas. Our soils are mostly Sam Houston clays. That's just what they are. They don't lend themselves to natural or traditional septic tanks. Most of these are aerobic. You've heard me say before, we're working on the OSF rules. Those will be coming shortly one way or the other. Anyway, this road design and constructions standards are contained in Hill County subdivision rules and regulations are required. If you're going to put in an RV park, a mobile home park, you're not going to do it on a gravel road. We've got to get emergency vehicles out there just as much as you got to get your people out. We need to make sure that it's safe and it's not a detriment to public health and safety. So those road designs, building setbacks, they apply, drainage designs apply. So one thing is in this rule that we talked about the number. So 8.3.10.2, and forgive me, I numbered these this way on purpose. Instead of making big chunks of paragraph, I've numbered them so if you can go, hey, Justin, I don't understand this. Okay, what do you not understand? 8.3.1.2.1. Great, let's go straight to that. 8.3.10.2, the aforementioned amenities shall include not more than 50 recreationals, tiny home, temporary rental, short-term rental spaces. For each additional 30 recreational. So what we're talking about is service buildings, laundry, sanitation facilities. If you're going to build something with more than 50 homes, you're going to add those services out there as well, is what we're saying. You're putting people out in the middle of nowhere, some of the proposals we've seen and official proposals we've seen. There needs to be some way to take care of those folks, some way for them to do things that in an emergency situation. So we can't just have people out in a pasture and it rains 6 inches and we can't get to them. Go ahead. Where you at?
Make sure I understand that.
Yep.
If I read that right, as long as I provide these, I can continue to add on 30 vehicle increments.
Under these rules, if you go to 8.3.2, recreational vehicle parks, tiny home communities, or temporary rental communities and short-term rental communities shall be designed as not to exceed a maximum of 10 units per acre. That number was questioned by our county surveyor, and he's right to do so. You know what the standard is? The standard is 25 units per acre. There is no way under a traditional septic system that any soil in Hill County handles that. It's just not. There's raw sewage coming out of the cliffs over at Whitney right now on the lake. It's the oversaturation. So why do we have this number lower? Because of the findings we made up front. We don't have the ability to contain that. If you're going to start building one of these, also in these rules is after a certain population or density, you're going to have to build a municipal style septic system. And not a septic, I guess sewerage system is what the terminology is. Our goal is not to quit development. It is to provide safe development. So some of these rules are going to seem a little harsh, but the fact of the matter is these are things that we're being asked about right now in our office and things that we're seeing happening in other counties. So Section 8 is probably the newest piece of this outside of the operating or subsection C. Section 9 is engineering plans. And now Jesse will probably disagree with me, and I hope he cuts more out of it. We cut a lot out of it. We cut a lot out of it, but there's probably more we could cut out on the engineering plans. We're basically saying, hey, here's the plans required for all improvements, the general requirements on those. Any copies of permits shall be provided by TxDOT. All the erosion control shall be submitted. Any construction plans shall be submitted. The development team will review the construction plans for their conformance to this ordinance and return one set of construction plans to the developer stating the plans have been approved, or comments stating the change will need to be made for the plans will be approved. So before those subdivisions get here, they go through the development team. And if it wasn't for Jesse Ince, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. But having his expertise, we meet, bring our commissioners in, we review those plats that come in once they're complete application. We usually hold those on Fridays if anybody's interested in showing up to one. And then we go through them, make sure they comply with these ordinances. If they do, great. If not, we send it back and get corrections made to it. Number 9.3, and this is our paving plans in general. We have for years specified, other 9.3.3, we have for years specified either 2 inches MDA, that's asphalt compacted, or concrete. That's probably not realistic. So what I'm proposing is this: the minimum acceptable wearing surface shall be type D HMA, which is 2 inches minimum thickness at 3,000 PSI, or minimum Portland cement concrete with a mixture of at least 6 inches. The developer may apply for a variance from this section and request the wearing surface of the roadway, excluding cul-de-sacs, to be a 2-course chip seal. Now, the reason I say excluding cul-de-sacs, I think we all know turning around on chip seal, it don't last real long. But that's something I'm proposing. We have made those variances in the past. It is something that can be maintained. It can be built right and used successfully in subdivisions. So that's something I'd like you guys to consider as to what
So
we're doing.
this assumes, make sure I understand this. This assumes that at some point, the county is going to take this into the maintenance system.
This assumes that the county could be forced to take it in the maintenance system at some point. Yes, sir, to answer that
And
question.
they'd have to force us at gun.
Pretty much. Pretty much. We can't say grace over what we got. And taking in new roads is not something I recommend to this court, as everybody's well aware here. Just because we accept a subdivision, Attorney General says we're not accepting the roads without express language. We have required plat statements that you have to put on the plat. And one of those required statements is they understand this is a privately maintained road by the developer.
Well, I'm sure we're not changing.
I don't know that that is clear.
Okay,
Let's
cool.
I think that's a great
Let's
question.
make it clear.
Let's make it clearer.
Does need to be made clear.
Cool.
And I don't know if we want to require any homeowners association, which I know are not very popular, but
I'm open to
you gotta
that.
have some mechanism to keep the roads maintained. If
I-
we're not gonna accept it.
I agree.
And there's some language in here in a couple of different places that says that it is the responsibility of the property owner, the homeowner, to maintain the road in front of their house. And I don't know that.
I intended that.
You got 50 RVs and 50 people responsible for
Well,
that.
not necessarily an RV park. I'm talking about a single family subdivision.
Same thing. You got 50 people that have varying levels of responsibility going to take care of their pieces.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, I agree. I mean, we have a way to do it. If you guys want to, just give me the direction. We'll put it in here.
Should.
But that's what I think with subdivision, we have.
Exactly.
They have a policy at the beginning, and after 20, 30 years,
Everybody's gone.
nobody knows.
The original developer in almost all instances is gonna be gone.
Oh, amen. Yeah, they're not gonna hang around. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So paving plans, we talk about our layout requirements under engineering, our perimeter improvements. We are talking about construction of drainage. If you can imagine what it is, we're saying street signs, roadway plan requirements, drainage requirement, how to name streets in here. Going across crossing culverts, we clarify something. So we have designated crossing culverts different than driveway culverts. Because we have in here language, and this was an edit you made and I've taken in, the driveway culverts have to have, the requirements we have going down to the permit office at 911 addressing, having the concrete in 18 inches in diameter and X number of feet wide. Well, not all drainage culverts are going to have slope concrete in. Some of them may be sidewalls, you know what I mean? So we're going to look at that in our, we do have concrete safety treatments are required for all new culverts in accordance with TxDOT standards. That's on driveway. But on crossing culverts, we don't use that exact same language because those bigger culverts can be concrete pipe. They can be other things. Just know that we've taken in a lot of engineering plans here. We've taken out how to engineer it, but what is required. Stormwater runoff, that's been a huge thing. We get more people moving in all the time. You put a concrete subdivision where it used to be a plowed field, and guess what happens to the neighbors downstream? They get flooded pretty quick. And that's one of the things that would have resolved this up in your precinct to the 100,000 you just had to lay out if we had that on that. And I think it's important to require. Plus our general design considerations, culvert sizes, water septic requirements. Again, there's a formatting issue. I'll get that fixed. 9.17 is, I want to draw your attention to this. This is a high density development. We define that up front, but 9.17 on page 51 at the moment. High density development, townhouse, condominium, apartment, tiny home subdivision. High density development subdivisions shall be approved only when both state approval central water system and a county and state approved sewage disposal system will be available to each lot. And such residential development does not overly burden existing or proposed streets or other public facilities. Such use subdivisions shall comply with the following regulation and all other subdivision regulations of the county not in conflict with this section. High density developments, except apartment complexes contemplated by these regulations, will generally have certain characteristics which distinguish them from general or traditional single home residential lot subdivisions. Among such characteristics are the following: shared ownerships of driveways, parking areas, common grounds, recreational areas, and the like, shared amenities such as maintenance, storage facilities, management services, membership, and the like, shared governance such as a homeowners association, rules, regulations, maintenance agreements, fees, and the like. In addition, the developer of a high-density subdivision development will be responsible for the cost of engineering and construction of any required improvements to county roads to access the proposed high-density development. While not every high-density development, tiny townhouse, condominium, tiny home subdivision will necessarily contain all the foregoing characteristics, application for approval of a high-density development will be reviewed with these criteria as a guide. Homeowners Association rules, maintenance agreements, deed restrictions, or the like shall be submitted for review by the Commissioners Court prior to final approval of subdivision plat.
Should we add cost of engineering, construction, and maintenance?
Yeah. Sure. We can add maintenance in there.
Anything over 10 acres, it's not being planted. I've got a subdivision that's 10
Yes,
acres.
ma'am.
It under these it would, if it has a road in it.
The roads that they build, they have no clue about this plat plan, that they're trying to build roads on, they come in and try to put some kind of rock material in the plat plan.
Yes, sir.
And it just, it's gone. And then they call me and won't know when I'm gonna chip seal their county road, when I asked the developer to make a donation to fix this road, and they ignored it, and then they sold the property. They had no water and had to drill wells to get water to sell the property. And now they won't call me now when I want to chip seal their road. It's not happening.
No, and that's the reason these changes are being made to these documents we currently have is to avoid situations like that in the future, to upgrade and to keep that from being an issue, to get a handle on some of these unscrupulous developments where they're laying down a thin ribbon of rock, having a Saturday sale, and then the developer disappears off the face of the earth and we're left holding the bag. The taxpayers left holding the bag. But that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. We're trying to do in here. That's the main goal of these rules, is to put the development back on the developer, not the taxpayer. Moving on to section 10, the construction requirements, and these are construction meetings, beginning construction, our testing, preliminary acceptance of construction, record construction plans, driveway, culvert application permit, which is just taking the policy we recently approved. Permit fees, and we have a schedule for that in the back. County roadway utility crossing specifications. Talk about they want to take utilities through or around your road. We got to be aware of it. They can't just be doing that. talks for what project completion looks like and how that works, construction, maintenance, escrow accounts, all the things that we need in there. And the state of Texas is saying that we have to include in that bond or that escrow account the amount to install the sewer system if they're putting septic tanks in. And so we will be doing that moving forward. Escrow in lieu of bond, which some people like to do better. We have to leave the possibility of bond, but the escrow in lieu of is seeing a popular alternative for folks. Section 9 is the subdivision plat cancellation. I'm sorry, section 11 is subdivision plat cancellation. Section 12 is variances. We didn't talk about variances very much in our last document. Okay. Section 13 is the enforcement, and this is what we're going to do. And we recite the appropriate statutes when they're amended. And then severability clause on section 14. Then we come to the schedules behind it. Fee schedule is first, and it talks about county platting fees. Remember, we used to do $100 plus $20 a lot. That is not sufficient to cover the amount of time that we're spending on these by any means whatsoever. Hell, $250 is not sufficient to cover the amount of time we're spending on it when you get 8 people in the same room to go over it multiple times. The other thing we found is that we used to do it by lot. We're spending just as much time on a 4 lot often as we're spending on a 10, 20 lot. So we propose bringing these fees in line with counties around us are doing. Minor plat, same as a preliminary plat, final plat, $500. Same for any replat fee. Somebody comes in, wants to replat something. Engineering review retainer, that's going to get some hackles up. I'm proposing we require a $5,000 retainer. We hold it in trust. And that's what we pay for the engineering reviews, because we have Jesse, but we don't have a county engineer per se. And we need to be able to have an engineer review drawings for roads, drawings for drainage, and say, hey, this is good or this is not good. I want that money up front so that we can pay the engineer, because they can't pay the engineer. We're the client, so you can't have a relationship between 2 parties and, hey, have this third guy pay you. At least that's what I'm being told by our engineers that we run across. And I believe it. So I would require them, if you're going to have engineering, you have a subdivision that requires engineering, that means you're building a road or drainage, that we have a retainer of some sort. And I just put the number 5 in there so that we have some money to apply to those fees. I don't want to be left holding the bag, and the taxpayer should not be paying for other developers' costs. They shouldn't be subsidizing developers. Engineering plan review fees, replatting fee at a variance, and non-refundable road and drainage inspection fee. We got to send people out. It costs us money to send people out to inspect, and we'll apply that against that retainer. But that's what needs to happen. So that is the platting fee schedule as proposed. There is the administrative checklist and administratively complete processes on the next 2 pages. After that's the extraterritorial jurisdiction affidavit. It tells us either you're in or you're out. It's 2 cities in Hill County, Hillsborough and Whitney, manager ETJ, the rest of them we're responsible for. Then there's the pre-construction conference agenda. What do we say pre-construction conference? I thought it would be good just to let people know what that actually is. Have an agenda where, everybody can sign off. They had it too on the back. Works out. And last but not least, this is the subdivision process. And I'm going to say this up front before anybody opens their mouth and embarrasses anybody. I gave this to a 16-year-old that is not related to me to read and say, can you figure out what I'm asking of you by reading this document? She's a pretty smart 16-year-old, but she said, yeah, not one of my kids either, by the way. And she said, yes, she can understand it. So 16-year-old understood what it is we're up to. So that is the subdivision rules and regulations as proposed. That does not mean this is the only thing I'll consider. It's just, guys, I've been working on this a long time. I need to get this in front of you. I need to get some decisions made and changes so that we can implement something. This document is not perfect, and it will never be perfect. So I cannot let perfect be the enemy of good. I really need to get to a point where we can upgrade the rules sooner rather than later. Mr. Entz has been here this morning. I know you've got changes you'd like to make. We'd love to hear them. Yes, sir. Oh, come on up so everybody can hear you. Thank you, Jesse. Cool.
But starting with, preliminary plat section.
Yes, sir. Gotcha.
Go down to section 3.2.
Yes, sir.
The owner identification, architect needs to go away out of that.
Oh, architect needs to be deleted? Okay, cool.
That's not
Perfect.
Boundary lines, needs some additional stuff in there, point of beginning, and all property boundary lines should be shown, they come forward, we need to specify that's north central.
North Central, not NAD 83, but North Central.
And then the 83, it's north central though. We've got, surveyors that are coming in from McLennan County, that are used to doing everything in central though.
Oh,
It's different, just south of us here.
okay.
Actually, over in Boston County, it's all over the central zone, but we're in north central, we need to specify that for the ground.
Great catch.
You know, all these other different coordinate systems then. Also. that- Point of beginning, we've got that shown to be in state flame. We need to also have point of beginning and at least the one additional.
Okay, so POB and one additional point. We'll put that under 3.2.
One bit. That way it gives you, it shows that it is state flame coordinates and it locks everything in. One point can be pivoted around.
Okay,
But it gives state line work at one point and it's not approved through burning discipline.
okay, makes sense.
3.4, street layout. We need to add quite a bit here in that section, I think, because we've been requiring that whenever the join the county roads, it's gotta give us 30 feet.
Yes, sir.
We have nothing in there about that.
Okay.
So, if you go back to the document I gave you,
Yes, sir.
got a food session. Rest of that, and we'll leave the report if I've got it or not, but that's how we're supposed. It's, long section.
Hang on a second. I'm getting to it. I promise. Well, do you know where that section is in your document? Because I may have sent everybody here over the last 2 months. How many versions now? Yeah, I want to get it. I've been working on it, guys. I want to get this done. But yeah, I didn't see that on yours because this is the one. Is this yours? Is this the one you gave me last time? It was in a folder. Nope. Okay, hang on. Then this one's yours. Well, I get lots of people giving me their copy, so bear with me just a second. All right, here, this one. This is probably not yours. Yours is going to be another one. This is, yeah, you know what? Go through it and I'll take that. I have 20 of these on my desk. I apologize. Oh, perfect.
The blue section.
Hey, can you send this to me in a Word format?
Yes.
Cool. There you go. Now, if you've seen these fingers, typing and me aren't exactly good friends. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to take your recommendations on all that because all those things are very technical and information that I don't have. Is there anything in here as a base policy point that you're saying, hey, this is a bad idea?
No, again, I see some things we need to get in there that aren't in there yet.
We'll put them in.
Building setbacks, utility drainages, if we have some minimum standards on the sides, rear.
Yes, sir.
Everything, otherwise you got people building around getting the property line.
Good deal.
Which cause all kinds of problems, like I mentioned, fire hazards, amongst that.
Yeah.
But also maintenance and so forth.
Okay.
Kept similar in each of the other,
Final and minor plats.
yeah,
Okay.
but I think probably be better if just go ahead and reiterate everything and send it back to you again.
Appreciate it.
I think go over everything in here.
Yeah, we're open.
There's some stuff in like the final plat section.
Yeah.
We item 4.8, certification approved by city. And 4.10 zoning requirements, why are we even involved in that?
Yeah, I copied some of that language. I'm not gonna lie to you. Maybe something we don't have anything to do with and don't want.
It isn't, once we have that territorial jurisdiction, we don't even approve it, we don't review it.
Well, that certification approval under 4.8, certification approval signed by the appropriate representative of any city having ETJ over the area, which let's basically all we're saying is, hey, you're in their ETJ, the city has signed off, you're in ETJ, and the city is saying, we don't regulate this. Like right now, we regulate, Hillsborough and Whitney, and I'm understanding that Whitney may not want that anymore. And I got a meeting this afternoon. I think that's going to be part of the topic. Mr. Pribble is online with us today, so I don't want to be talking out of school. But we've had the certification approval just to go, hey, the city's aware of this and they know what's going on. Kind of a good neighbor thing is all it really is. But yeah, the zoning requirements, I get it. We don't have any ability to enforce that. That probably needs to come out of there.
Throughout those sections, some of the stuff is similar.
Yes, sir.
Re-highlight stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate your expertise. I want everybody to know, look, Jesse's our elected county surveyor. We don't pay him anything that we should. He does great work. He brings a knowledge base of many years of working with TxDOT, many years as a land surveyor. Not only that, as a licensed engineer. He's invaluable to this process, and we could not do the things that we do at a county our size without him. And I've made him a job offer multiple times. And so everybody knows if he shows up one day with a county uniform, we're cool with each other, right? Good deal. Job offer stands, man. You let me know when you want to take me up on it. So that being said, I know that I keep passing this thing around. I know I'm beating this horse to death, but I have to get this done. So I'm going to put this on our next regular meeting for approval with Jesse's comments and inclusions in here, anything else. If anybody can think of anything they need or this doesn't cover, I know this is boring reading material. Trust me, I know this is boring reading material, but it's just that important for the future development and growth of Hill County. Give it a look over, send it back. We will fix it. You're going to find spelling errors, not very many though. I had Miss Cook read it and she's really good at that. The formatting errors are mine and mine alone. Nobody else can be affected with that. So anyway, that is our discussion. I will request no action on this today other than review by commissioners and all other parties and send it back to me. Yes, sir.
One
Yeah.
thing I think we need to think about, there are a few places in here that put responsibilities on the county.
Mhm.
Some of them are 5 years out.
Yeah,
Who's gonna be responsible? How are we gonna keep track of that?
that's a great question. And I don't know the answer to it off the top of my head. We're going to figure it out.
That was one thing that hit me.
No, you're right. So there's not a department solely for this. When we started envisioning this over a year ago, we kind of thought things might go different than they did. Not just things didn't turn out like we thought they would, having an own development department. I'll be honest with you and everybody in this room, the reason I made Jesse a job offer is we need a development department. It's what we need. We need somebody that can look over these things, that we can wrap the 911 addressing in, that we could wrap septic in. We could do all those things. The sheriff is good enough right now to have one of his deputies doing it, and we really appreciate that. It helps when you got a badge and a gun to enforce the rules, it turns out. That being said, I know that's not his main calling. He's got other things he needs to do. Everybody's picking up a piece of the pie here and there. We really have to create a development department, and I think that's something that's going to be incumbent upon us in our next budget. I know I'm famously cheap with giving out money for employees when it comes to new employees because we don't get much in. We're going to have to do something here. We are turning red hot in development. It's been pretty lukewarm lately, but it's starting to really pick up. And we're seeing some folks do things that I don't think are going to be good for the county in the future. There's some great developments out there too, don't get me wrong, but there's plenty that are questionable at best. So anyway,
I think there's a reference to development department here.
I may have gotten ahead of myself at one point. Happens, forgive me. Like I said, I've been working on this for several years now, but
Can we approve this like it is and then amend it in two weeks?
I would like to do the amendments that Mr. Ince has presented for the technical ones. They're very important to this, and then come back in 2 weeks and approve this.
Well, I know the city's waiting on a $30 million grant till we approve this.
Well, I hate to ask you to approve as amended. I would not like to approve it in its current form, but
We can't amend it. I mean, we can approve it and amend it in 2 weeks.
yeah, they're pretty substantial. You want me to call a special meeting after we get all of them in? I'll do that. I'm not opposed to that at all. If we're worried about speed, if it's taking too long, I can call a special meeting next week.
Well, I just hate to,
I
I mean, if Hillsboro's got a
yeah,
$30 million grant hanging out there, and
agreed.
I think they need to get it.
Well, let's work with all due haste. I don't believe so. They would have told me if it killed it. We've got a little bit of time, but we need to do it sooner rather than later. And my conversations with the city manager on this subject, they've got a little bit of time. But of course, the longer it gets, the more nervous they get. So, but I would rather have the stuff, the technical expertise that Jesse's given us put in here. Because here's the other problem with amending is we amend this right now, and 2 weeks later, we amend it again. Anything that started in between, now we've got 3 sets of rules. It's going to be bad enough that anybody started a subdivision under the old sets, we got to continue under the old set. But then we have a 2-week set, somebody starts, and then we have another amended set. It's going to get a little bit confusing, and that's for ease of operation for us. So if we could give it another week and just, Jesse's already got that stuff. He'll send me the Word file. I'll put it together. I will send it off to a third party, I promise, for formatting and spell checking, because that's obviously not my forte after seeing this document today. But we can get it going when we get it moving. So good deal. Everybody, thank you. I know this is not a riveting topic, but it's a very important topic, and I appreciate everybody's attention today. All right. Well, with no action on this today, the next item here is going to be our executive committee, executive session. Before that, has anybody here worked up the courage for open forum? Anybody need to say anything? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Bidding, Mr. Cochran got me started. Like behind the 8 ball, but anyway, for the special meeting next week, I guess we'll want to probably go out to people for our county supplies and so forth, and I'll be sending out the commissioner.
Okay.
Packages and vendors.
Good deal. Good deal. So let's just clarify this right now. Next week will be the 4th, March 4th. So March 4th is when we're looking at holding our special meeting, hopefully get everything accomplished that we need to do with that and take it up on March 4th. So we'll post notice of that before the end of the week and see where we're at. Anything else? Open forum? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Can you, and identify yourself for the record, please. We should have made Susan do it, but we forget because we know her. Thank you for being here.
Amy Teal, I'm up in Whitney. I did see the information in the paper about the hotel occupancy tax and reflection on that. I absolutely agree with what you had mentioned in the article that I saw in Watson Meeting, that we really need to stay keep our dollars as free market as possible. So I would be against expending any more county resources into that kind of collection, and I would actually encourage y'all to pull back on it.
Okay.
We need some beds that needs to happen in the free market, not because the county is pushing it. So I'm a big fan of leaving tourism and stuff like that to the free market.
Okay, good deal. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else for open forum? All right. Well, this time we have to have an executive session, unfortunately, and that will be over 551.017, and that's to convene in consultations with our attorney with pending litigation. So at this time, we're going to give everybody about 5 minutes to stretch, clear the room. We turn the microphones off. And then after this is over, we will come back in, and if there be any needed action, we will take said action at that time.